Hola, 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 everybody. Hello, everybody. So, chapter 3. Um, and we have seen in chapter 1, we reviewed the complex nature of our English language learners, um, who are the object of our analysis. When we're talking about assessing English language learners, the students, are the object of our assessment. So we have to know them very well if we are to create a valid or an accurate and scientifically valid observation assessment of their performance. Now, then we moved into when in chapter 2 we discussed how important it is to assess them in both content and language. We do know that they interact, and so students come with a certain level of L1 that you as a faculty and the students may want to use to get to the knowledge that is being presented in the lesson, to get to the English language that is going to be used in the lesson. So in a sense, it's important that when we say we're going to assess our English language learners, we need to differentiate between what you are assessing content or are you assessing language, and how are you assessing the intersectionality of both of those. That's what we did in chapter 2, discuss the importance of identifying language objectives aligned to the content objectives for every lesson. It truly is a great practice, and not only for your English language learners whose L1 is not English, but it's incredibly useful as well for students who L1 who are monolingual English speakers, but they're not at the level of their monolingual peers in English performance. It's a great strategy for them as well. So everybody wins. And then in chapter 3, we're going to discuss assessing language. And when we say that, then we're going to have to discuss Biggs and Cup, social language, academic language, and then we're going to have to differentiate between oracy and literacy. And within oracy and literacy, productive and receptive skills. Once we have this more complex understanding of language proficiency, then we can start assessing it, assessing its different facets, its different domains, more accurate. You see, now we're starting to deal with assessment at a more scientific, more accurate level, not just like, yeah, he sounds like he can speak, or no, I think he needs intervention. It's gonna be a little more complex than that. You're gonna have to have different points um, uh, to be able to measure well their English proficiency. And in the book, Professor Gottlieb suggests that we compile data, meaning different data sources. We do use larger scale assessment for English acquisition. In Colorado, is SILA, and then of course for English for development we have DRA and DeVos and all kinds of other language assessments that are used early on. But our large scale standardized assessment as of today is SILA in Colorado, and so that's what we use, and many times that's the only thing we use to make inferences, to make decisions on services and such. Um, we are trying to provide a point that is very valid to have classroom-based assessment. Uh, Different data points, different data sources, observations, interviews, samples, video recordings, audio recordings, you name it. However you collect your data, and then a longitudinal analysis of where your student was and where he or she is and where they need to be. Which is at any rate, that's what the standardized assessment would like to inform us about. But many times we know it fails to do that. But we don't dismiss it. We just don't say, forget about it. Let's just do all classroom-based assessment. If your classroom-based assessments are well developed, if you have a good plan on what you're observing, what you're looking for, how you're going to document it to be a part of that final portfolio on the student, if that is very clear and you're designing and implementing that plan correctly, And if SILA, or the English assessment, is valid and accurate and scientifically correct, then your assessments will be aligned. In other words, your collection of data will sort of simplify the number grade that you get from SILA. You know, if you take a whole year of collecting data, designing collection of data, you know, protocols on how you're going to collect these and what is that going to tell you, what are you looking for with that specific form of classroom-based assessment, and you have a year of these things, and then you're like, yep, this English is an LEP, say, to put a category. He's an LEP, and then he takes the SILA, and the SILA says he's an NEP. Well, one of the two of you is lying, or something went wrong. Because if you did your job well, your observation should be accurate, and if SILA is measuring English well, then it should be aligned. If you think it's an LEP, so should SILA believe. So when we have these multiple data sources, we can see patterns, we can see where there is bias, what's not being analyzed correctly, and keep triggering and keep calibrating our instruments so that we can measure English acquisition correctly and provide the appropriate interventions and supplements and such. That's for chapter 3. We're going to discuss this in class as well. So I will see you then. Adios.